everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thanks for stopping by. I'm Carol and I'm so glad to have you here. So I know I've been absent for a little while, needed to take a little bit of a break for some personal reasons, but I am getting back into the groove and we are going to start things off with some delicious canning. I know you guys are crazy about canning and you've been anxious for another canning video, so that's what we are going to do today. It is berry season. We all love strawberries, right? And summertime is also the time for ice cream. So today we're going to make a delicious strawberry sundae sauce for all of your ice cream parties you'll be having throughout the summer. So this recipe comes from the Canning Kitchen. This is a canning cookbook by Amy Brawny. Forgive me if I'm not saying her name correctly, but she is lovely, has a lot of delicious recipes in here. This is a canning book that I trust. Amy does have her home food preserver certification through the University of Georgia and the National Center of Home Food Preservation. So I do trust the recipes that are in this book. It is fantastic. I will leave a link to it through my Amazon store in the description box below. So you only need 2 ingredients. You need delicious fresh strawberries, the fresher the better, and we need some sugar. The texture of your sauce is entirely up to you. You can completely mash them, you can partially mash them. She does make note in her tip section, if you prefer larger pieces of strawberries in your sundae sauce, have them, quarter them, or even leave small ones whole. So you can kind of control the texture that you want, but we are gonna mash some of them up. I've just washed my berries, hulled them and got rid of the stems, discarded them, and they're rinsed and ready to go. Some of the bigger ones I did cut in half. The smaller ones I've left whole. I like some texture to my sauce so that you can identify that it is strawberry. I like the bigger strawberry pieces in it, but like I said, you could totally mash them and make it more saucy if you prefer. So you want to make sure that you're using a nice big pot. Strawberries by nature tend to foam up when you cook them, so you want to make sure you have a pot that's big enough that it's not going to boil over. And then we're just going to add 5 cups of sugar. Yes, I know that's a lot of sugar, but it is a sundae sauce after all. We got to sweeten things up and make it nice and saucy. So we are going to, I'm going to get my masher out. We're going to mash our berries. We're going to add our sugar. We're going to bring it up to a boil it for 10 minutes, and then we are all set for canning. I'm going to be using my steam canner today. You can steam can or you can water bath can this recipe. Either one is totally fine. If you've been around my channel very much, you know I love steam canning, so that's the process that I am going to be using. So I'm going to bring you in close and we're going to get started. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my heat on to a nice medium-high heat. We're going to add our 5 cups of sugar. Okay, just a little tip. I have found that it's easier to mash your berries once they're warm. Plus, it gives you a little better idea of what the texture is going to be. So I have just stirred my sugar into my berries. I'm heating things up. I'm going to let things warm up and bring it up to at least a simmer, if not a boil, before I start mashing to the texture that I am going for. So that's a nice tip there. They're much easier to mash if they're warm. Another tip I have for you is we obviously don't want anything to scorch or burn, so you need to make sure that you are stirring frequently to make sure nothing scorches or burns on the bottom, especially until they get going, until your sugar dissolves and your berries have released some of their juices. So make sure you are stirring frequently. Okay guys, we have a nice foamy boil starting to go on here. I do want to note that I did turn my heat up to high once I got things going. I start mine on a medium high so that my sugar has a less chance of my sugar burning. So now I have it on high. We've got a nice foamy boil going. I did mash some of my berries, but most of them I've left in bigger pieces because, like I said, I like that texture. So we're just going to keep an eye on it, stir it every now and then. You do not want to leave it. It's going to foam up quite a bit, and we need to let it boil for 10 minutes. Then we are all set for canning. So as you can see, berries foam up strawberries foam up quite a bit. So you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it so it doesn't boil over. Even if you have to turn your heat down just a little bit, you just want to maintain a nice boil. Okay, so we've been boiling for about 10 minutes now, so we are ready to go ahead and turn our heat off. You can see that there's a lot of foam, so I'm going to try to remove some of that foam, and then we are all set for canning. Okay guys, we are all set for canning. Modern canning guidelines state that you don't need to pre-sterilize jars or lids as long as you're processing for more than 10 minutes, and we are. I've just washed my jars and kept them hot in a sink full of hot water. I've washed my lids and set them aside, so we are ready to go. As far as the foam goes, I think it's really hard to get rid of all of it. I just used a spoon to skim off what I could. There still is a little bit, but it will be totally fine in your jar. So let's go ahead and start ladling in our sundae sauce. Now we want 1/4 inch of headspace. Okay, I do want to note that the processing time she gives is for pint-sized jars, so that's what I'm using. I don't have any instructions for any other size jar, so we need to use pint-sized jars. I've ladled into about 1/4 inch of headspace. I'm going to, this one needs a little bit more. I'm going to use a debubbling tool to release air bubbles. If your headspace changes, you can top it off. This one changed a little bit. Now we are dealing with sugar here, so it's really important to clean the rim of your jars. It's really easy for anything that's sugary or sticky to prevent, if you don't get it cleaned really well, it can prevent a good seal. So I always use a paper towel dipped in white vinegar to clean my rims. And then we are going to center our lids. And then add our rings to fingertip tight. And in the canner they go. How beautiful is that? I have 3 quarts of simmering water in my steam canner. If you are water bath canning, you want to make sure that you have enough water in your canner to cover your jars by at least 1 inch. Okay, so we should end up with approximately 5 pint-sized jars. I do have a little bit left, but I got most of it in my 5 jars. So we are all set to get the canning process started. Like I said, I had 3 quarts of simmering water in the bottom of my steam canner. I'm gonna put the lid on and I'm gonna crank the heat up to high. Bring that up to temperature. If you have a steam canner, there will be a dial gauge on the top of your canner telling you when you should start your processing time. If you are water bath canning, you want to make sure your water covers your jars by at least 1 inch, and you want to bring it up to a full rolling boil before you start your processing time. We're going to process for 15 minutes, and then we're going to take the lid off, let our jars sit for 5, and then we can take them out and see our delicious strawberry sundae sauce. Okay guys, we are all set. I processed for 15 minutes. Even though you don't have to with steam canning, I left my lid on for 5 minutes and then took it off and let my jar sit a little bit longer. I've learned from experience that anytime you are dealing with sugar syrup, it can siphon very easily when steam canning. So I left mine in, left the lid on, left them in 5 minutes, and then took the lid off and let them sit another 5 minutes to cool down a little bit more slowly to try to prevent that. But look how beautiful. Strawberry sundae sauce. Looks fantastic and it tastes amazing. So we're gonna let our jars sit for 12 to 24 hours undisturbed, and then you can remove your bands, check your seals, and make sure you wash your jars really well before storing them. Again, we're dealing with sugar and it can easily, you could have dripped some down the side and it can be a little sticky. So make sure you wash your jars really well. I always use hot soapy water with a little bit of vinegar. That helps. So I wanted to show you up close a little bit that I have left over, what it looks like. This will thicken up more as it sits. It's still a little bit warm, but as it cools and sits, it will thicken up more for you, and the foam goes away. You probably saw a little bit of foam when I showed you the jar straight from the canner, but the foam does go away. You can see I don't have any more foam there. But look at that. Chunks of yummy, yummy strawberries. Nice and saucy. Just delicious. Over ice cream, cake, any type of dessert. It's just fantastic, and only 2 ingredients, and it doesn't take very long to do, so I hope you'll give it a try. Be sure to check out Amy's the Canning Kitchen cookbook. It's fantastic. Again, her recipes are trusted. She has her home food preserver certification. So hope you enjoyed coming along with me today, guys. If you have any comments or questions, leave them for me in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you again real soon. Have a great day.